Hi, my name's Catherine McNulty, and I created Grief Inspired to help those who are grieving find meaning in loss and to let them know that they don't have to grieve alone. I lost my son, who was an infant, about 10 years ago, and the process for me was incredibly lonely. People around me scattered. Nobody knew what to say, nobody knew what to do. And so human nature, when we don't know what to do and we don't know what to say, we avoid. And so people avoided me. And what that did for me as part of my grief process is it made me feel very lonely. And honestly, it made the process harder than it needed to be. And so this video today, I am creating for you if you know someone who is grieving. So these are the tips and the tools that you can use and the things that you need to know to be able to support them and to support them in a way that's really meaningful. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a lot of tips, a lot of tools here. If you do just one or two of them, I need you to understand that this can impact someone in such a positive way. Now, I'm going to give you 4 tips, and those tips are going to be: 1, be present and don't avoid. Tip 2 is to embrace the uncomfortable. Tip 3 is to check in often. And tip 4 is be specific in how you can help. So those are the 4. We're going to walk through each one of those. Before I do that though, I want to make sure that you understand that there are different levels of grief. And the amount of grief that someone experiences is directly related to the amount of connection and the amount of love that they had for the person that they've lost. So that's why losing a spouse or losing a child has such a great impact. Whereas when you hear about losing, someone in your office building has passed away, that isn't quite as strong of a reaction. Now, it can be devastating and you can be surprised, but the closer the person is to their loved one, the more grief that they're going to experience and the more devastating it's going to be. So just keep that in mind as we walk through these. So tip number 1 is to be present physically. And what I mean by that is show up. I hate when people say, "I'm sorry for your loss." We don't know what to say. And so the canned answer, and if you look on Facebook, "I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm praying for you. I'm sorry for your loss." And the intention is good, but that's not enough. You need to do more. And the way you can do more is to be present and to listen and to show up. And what I mean by that is call or text them on a regular basis. Check in with them and see how they're doing, and actually genuinely ask, "How is today? What's the hardest thing for you? What do you miss most about your loved one?" Ask. Try to put yourself in their shoes. Think about what it would be like and ask the hard questions. Number 2 is embrace the uncomfortable. Now, everybody knows that all of this is super uncomfortable. We all get it. It's uncomfortable for everyone. It's uncomfortable for the person who's experiencing the loss, and it's uncomfortable for you if you're the one who's checking in. And my advice there is do some work around what Brené Brown does. And she talks about courage, and courage in a way to build connection. The way to support people best through grief is to connect with them. And the way we connect with people is through being courageous, having courage, and stepping into the uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is acknowledging how uncomfortable the situation is. So when you go to see somebody who's grieving, or you hear of the loss and you want to make the phone call to let them know that you care, first, make that phone call. Second, go visit. But then acknowledge how uncomfortable it is. Say, I don't know what to say. I'm devastated for you. I can only imagine what this is like for you. Try to empathize with what it is that they're going through. And just say what's on your heart. If you come into a conversation and you're courageous enough to speak from the heart, no matter what you say, it's going to land in a good way. And the other person is going to appreciate it. Now, what you don't want to do is ever minimize the loss. So you don't want to say, well, at least this or at least that, right? Brene Brown says anything that starts with at least, don't finish that sentence, because it's not going to be helpful, right? We want to connect. We want to empathize. We want to try to get in the other person's shoes and try to imagine what it's like for them. And then ask. And the other thing that people don't typically do is they don't say the person who has passed away. We don't talk about them. We don't say their name. We try to, again, it's that avoidance. And my advice there is don't do that. Say the person's name. Share a story. Say, I remember when. I remember this time when. Or do you remember when this happened? Share stories. Share how that person had an impact on you. It gives their life meaning. And the person who's grieving will really appreciate what you have to say. And then create a space so that they can share. Ask them, do you want to talk? There's going to be times when people want to talk. There's going to be times when people really want to be alone. Maybe they just want you to sit with them and not say anything. Offer to do that. But again, if you're not sure, just ask. Offer suggestions and see what they say. They'll really, really appreciate it. Number 3 is check in often. So we go to the funeral, we send our card, we do our obligatory, we send flowers. And let me just talk about flowers for a minute. I personally don't think that flowers that are cut flowers sending to a funeral are a good idea. I just don't do it. I don't recommend that other people do it. It's why I've created a gift basket that you can send to people that's actually full of useful items, but I digress. Here's the thing about cut flowers. When my son passed away, we of course had a funeral. Everyone got white lilies, because if you go to a florist and you say, what do we buy? It's a funeral. They lost a child, they're always going to say white lilies. You can never go wrong with white lilies. So here's the thing. We brought all the white lilies home to my house. And at first they were beautiful. And the house was full of the scent of lilies. But what happened was I've come to actually not like them at all. Because what happened is that those lilies faded in time. The cut flowers started to die, and the petals fell off. And I was left with basically a mess to clean up of these petals from these flowers that symbolize the funeral of my son, that now we're all dead too. I just don't recommend cut flowers for a funeral. Now, what I did have was I had somebody bring me a flower, but it was a potted flower. And it was a plant that I could keep and I could care for and I could water. And every time I looked at it, I remembered that someone cared. Someone cared enough to bring me a plant. And every time I looked at the plant, I remembered my son. And it was really beautiful. So that's my advice there. I feel very strongly about not doing cut flowers for a funeral, but do what you will. That's just my advice. So check in often is where we were. I digressed. So grief lasts a long time. The funeral is a one-time event, but that grief, I'll tell you what, it lasts for a really long time. And it's different for everybody. But what happens is we, as the one who are grieving, we think about this every day, all day long, every day, for months, sometimes for years, before we really process and really stop the daily thinking about our loved one when the pain starts to lift. So my advice here is to remember that and to write down anniversaries. Now, the person who's grieving is tracking to the day how long it's been. So they'll know when it's been a week, they'll know when it's 2 weeks, they'll know when it's a month, they'll know when it's been 3 months, they'll know when it's 6 months. Acknowledging those anniversaries is huge. If you only can acknowledge one, the year anniversary is typically the one that I would suggest that you acknowledge. We all have cell phones, we all have calendars. Write it in your calendar and make sure that on that anniversary, you just send a note. Acknowledge that you know that today is the 1 year anniversary of their loved one's death and say, I'm thinking about you today. I cannot explain to you the magnitude of positive impact that you can have on somebody's life just by acknowledging that. Please, please do it. And then tip number 4 is to be very specific about how you can help, or how you're willing to help, how you could help, or what you think they might need. So a lot of times, because we're not sure what to say, we say, well, call us, I'm here for you. Well, when we're grieving, and particularly when we're deep in grief, we don't know how to ask for anything because we're just trying to get through the day. So what you need to do is be very specific about different ways that you can help. Can I bring you dinner? I was thinking about this. Can I bring you coffee? Can I bring you treats? Can I come and sit with you? Can we go out for a walk together? Can we take the dog for a walk? Can I come over and help clean up a bit for you? Can I do your laundry? Can I get your mail? Can I take your garbage out? Now, it depends on, how close you are to the person in terms of what you can offer to do. But again, do things that are very specific. And if it's too challenging for you to physically go and sit with them in the space, well, you can send them things. Send them things that show that you care. Send them meals, DoorDash meals for them. Do things that are really going to support them. And then think of yourself and say, when I was really upset, when I'd experienced loss before, when I've really been sort of down and out, right? Because life happens to all of us. What were the things that brought you comfort? Take those things and share them with somebody, with the person who's lost someone, and say, look, this is what worked for me, right? If it's women, bath salts or things that smell nice or flowers, anything lavender is good. A super comfortable robe, a pair of slippers, really nice jammies, right? Because they're going to want to just sit around. Offering to go to the movies. There's so many things that you can do. And they may say yes and they may say no. But the point is that you keep asking. And you remember those anniversaries. You embrace the uncomfortable. And you show up. And you be physically present. So again, the four things that we've talked about are: be present, don't avoid. Embrace the uncomfortable, because I get it, it's uncomfortable. Check in with the person often. Don't think it's just a one and done. And 4, offer specific ways that you can and are willing to support them. And again, there are people who stepped up and sent beautiful cards, beautiful notes. These were people that I didn't know. They didn't just send a card with sympathy and it just said, best wishes, we feel for you. It actually had like a meaningful note that said, you know what, this must be really hard for you. My heart breaks for you during this time of sadness. Do what you think will support them. Make sure that it comes from the heart, and I promise you that it will be well received. And I want to leave you with this. You have the power to make an amazing impact, and you have a choice. You can choose to do nothing. You can choose to avoid. You can choose to do just the minimum. Or you can step up and you can make a difference, and you can make a huge difference in someone else's life. And it's something that they will never forget. And these are the people that then, when you're the one who's grieving the loss of someone close to you, those people are going to be there for you too. So I hope this video's helped. You can find more information on griefinspired.com. You can reach out to me there if you have questions that I can help you with. If you're not sure what to do or what to say, reach out to me. I'm happy to talk about your specific situation and really come up with a way that you can support the people that you care about. My name's Catherine McNulty. I am Grief Inspired. I want you and the people that you love to be grief inspired too. Have a great day today.